So personally, I was working at a radio station for a while, but when the first time the pandemic broke out and the restrictions came to Uganda of like stay at home, do this and this, for a while, they were picking us and taking us to work, but after some time, the weight was too much on them. So they suggested that, a few people could stay back, and then the guys who stay closer or who can actually walk to work, because people were allowed to walk, could come and sit in and fill in for all those that cannot make it. So during that process, of course, you have no job. I mean, like someone is literally sitting in for you, so you don't know if you're going back to work or not. So I was affected in that way that I had to sit out as I let someone else do the work for me. So that's when I was impacted.
At the beginning of 2020, COVID-19 wreaked havoc, sending the whole world into a lockdown. The global economy slowly shut down, with businesses closing operations. These economic challenges did not spare the media industry, and at the time when the public needed information, journalists were either laid off or they were working in very hard conditions. The newspaper industry itself faced an almost sudden annihilation due to lockdown and social distancing as revenues went lower. The economic stress aside, an already struggling media landscape was also hit by a second virus accompanying COVID-19, the infodemic, which manifested itself in form of fake news, misinformation, and disinformation. And as an organization that is very passionate about keeping journalism alive, we went out to document the impact of COVID-19 to the media industry in Uganda. This very video you're watching is part of a 12-part series featuring media managers answering some of the questions that you'll be watching. Enjoy.
To some extent, I can say COVID-19 maybe was a blessing. I mean, yeah, to some extent it's been a blessing, though the world is crying, because one of the breakthroughs I have had, the visibility I have got, it's been during this lockdown, during when the COVID was announced. Why? Because if you come to Soroti or Teso and Karamoja, the only available local newspaper that was reporting stories from that area, that is a top managed by Vision Group, it was shut down. And then people from all those regions didn't have where to get stories from that concern them. Sometimes they go to maybe New Vision or Del Monte, they get one story in a week, So for my organization, it was a blessing. And then my team also was energized. And then I had some people who came in, those who were laid off from this newspaper. Some came in as advisors, that was a positive. And then some came in looking for a place to exercise their a place to exercise their career.
My media house in particular was affected by ads, because radios run on ads, but seeing as there were less events, less need to push products for one specific product, or just businesses and companies having to rationalize their resources, so they may not have had to spend as much on publicity, and that then affects the media house, yes. But luckily, where I was working, not many people faced salary cuts or salary or being sacked as a whole.
In terms of operations, in terms of work, other than us having to go home for some months, we are always working remotely. We have a lot of people in the field at any one given time. We work online, even when we are here physically. So in terms of operation, we have not had much impact, other than a few operational realities like people not having to come to office. But we've maintained all our work, we've grown work, we're busier than we were before, and other than the panic about the disease out there, yes.
What I've experienced, what I've seen happen, even for me, both running a media house and both reporting for media houses, is on the first side, let's say running a media house, we have had to change our plans, so because I for the platform I run, we got a grant to start the first year of it. And initially we had certain stories we had designated to do across different months. But when COVID-19 came, those stories didn't seem as relevant anymore. So we had to switch our coverage all of a sudden to COVID-19. But more importantly, you realize that because of COVID-19, you can't actually report from the field. So we had to do a lot of online reporting as well. So many of our journalists worked online. They didn't go to the field as much. They would find stories online. As a journalist, on the other hand, who works with media houses, I noticed budget cuts. Many people would tell you, oh, we used to pay so and so amount for this story. Now we're going to pay you half that amount. I noticed less commissioning. Editors were less willing to commission stories because they just had a smaller budget. They couldn't do as many stories as they wanted to do. And then somehow everything just seemed to be COVID-19 centric. So if you were sending a pitch that was not about COVID-19, it seemed like it wasn't important at the time. So I think that those are some of the effects I noticed.
At the beginning of 2020, COVID-19 wreaked havoc, sending the whole world into a lockdown. The global economy slowly shut down with businesses closing operations. These economic challenges did not spare the media industry. And at the time when the public needed information, journalists were either laid off or they are working in very hard conditions. The newspaper industry itself faced an almost sudden inhalation due to lockdown and social distancing as revenues went lower. The economic stress aside, an already struggling media landscape was also hit by a second virus accompanying COVID-19, the infodemic, which manifested itself in form of fake news, misinformation, and disinformation. And as an organization that is very passionate about keeping journalism alive, we went out to document the impact of COVID-19 to the media industry in Uganda. This very video you're watching is part of a 12-part series featuring media managers answering some of the questions that you'll be watching. Enjoy.